Yeah, ready here.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Tracy Schultz, and I am the chair of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group. I am opening this meeting of the advisory group and hereby call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being conducted via conference call and Microsoft Teams. Attendees should note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available after the meeting for attendees to download. The link will be located in the meeting's chat window and will be accessible for 21 days. Attendees should also note that the recording will include all audio, video, and user interaction within a Microsoft Teams app. Attendees calling in via phone will be included in the recording as audio only. Thank you for joining us this evening, whether you are online or dialing in. I'd like to give you some tips to help you save productive meeting using Microsoft Teams. First, for online users, if you don't currently see your toolbar in Microsoft Teams, and with your audio and video options, click anywhere on your screen. It should pop up near the center bottom of your screen. Everybody good with that? See that?
Yeah.
Once we open for questions and comments, if you have the raise your hand option, which is a hand icon on your toolbar, please use it to let us know you'd like to speak. If you do not see that option, you can click your microphone on and off to mute and unmute yourself to let us know that you'd like to speak. It will flash your name to let us know. For dial-in telephone users only, we will invite you to speak after the online speakers have finished. *6 will unmute you when our meeting facilitator, Melissa Bogdan, has asked you if you'd like to speak using the last 4 digits of your phone number. Once called upon, remember to press *6 when it is your turn to speak. If you don't wish to speak when you hear your number, no problem, we'll move on to the next person. This is for dial-in telephone users only. For all participants this evening, remember we ask that you remain muted unless it is your turn to speak to avoid background noise. Please unmute yourself before you begin speaking. Melissa Bogdan will let you know when it is your turn, as well as the next person in line. We ask that you please introduce yourself by giving us your name, community you represent, before moving on with your question or comment. Keep in mind that sometimes there is a delay when meeting virtually, so let's all do our best not to speak over people. For members of the public calling in to join us, we invite you to listen in, but ask that you please refrain from disrupting the meeting. If members of the public pre-registered to comment on a specific agenda item, I will provide you an opportunity to comment after the agenda items presented. For members of the public that were unable to pre-register, I will provide you an opportunity to provide your comments at the end of the meeting before closing. So somebody is unmuted already, so everybody can mute their microphones. I'm getting background noise already. So we appreciate everyone's patience and ask that you hold any comments until the designated time. For security reasons, the chat function in Microsoft Teams is enabled for MDOT personnel. Please ask questions verbally at the appropriate time, as any posts entered in the chat window are not visible to staff and will not be responded to. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded in its entirety. Melissa Bogdan will now take a roll call of attendees.
Thank you, Tracy. First, for our members, Jack Broderick.
Here.
Hamilton Cheney. Nicholas Diotis. Barbara Hitchings.
Here.
Michael Lord. Patricia Lynch. I understand she had a conflict and she will be on later, possibly. Jim Moran.
Here.
Jim Ports.
Here.
Sean Powell.
Present.
Kurt Riegel.
Kurt Riegel is here.
Tim Smith.
Present.
Tracy Schultz.
Here.
Steve Wilson. As far as the elected officials that I have seen online so far, we have Kathy O'Donovan for Delegate Michael Malone.
Present.
We have Sarah Gannon for Councilman Nathal Volke.
Present.
And we have Asia for Delegate Sid Saab.
Present.
And I see Ramond Robinson from Anne Arundel County DOT.
Present.
And Todd Munn from Queen Anne's County.
I'm here.
Okay, as for our staff, is Richard Baker present? Robert Bain, Lenora Conti, Jamie Cornelius, Ken Fender, here,
Here.
Natalie Henson, Courtney Highsmith,
Here.
Jim Harkness,
Here.
Richard Jaramillo, Richard, are you here?
Here.
Charles Kenny,
Here.
John Lancaster, Heather Lowe,
I'm here.
Glenn McGuire, Kelly Mellum,
Kelly's here.
Kim Millender,
I'm here.
Mary O'Keefe,
Present.
Joanna Kill, Will Pines,
Here.
Robert Rager,
Here.
Mike Rice,
Here.
Brad Ryan,
Here.
Joseph Segal,
Present.
Colin Sweeten,
Here.
Kelly Leager,
Here.
Ebony Moore, Pilar Helm. Others, I see Greg Harvey from Queen Anne's County TV. Greg, are you with us?
George.
George.
Yes, we're here. Sorry about that.
It's George or Greg? I'm sorry.
It's George.
Okay. And Bruce Grove, also from Queen Anne's County TV.
I'm not sure if Bruce made it. He was having some issues getting connected, but we're able to record, so we're just here to record.
Okay.
Great.
If I missed any staff or if there are any other state employees on the line, please let me know now and take turns identifying yourself so the minutes
State
can
Senator
accurately
Rick
reflect.
Riley.
I'm sorry?
State Senator Rick Riley.
Rick Riley, welcome. Thank you.
Melissa, just a quick question. Some of us are called guests and others are not. What is the significance of that?
As far as the Teams thing, I'm not exactly sure. Oh, maybe you're outside of MDOT. That's why. The folks that are guests are attendees outside of the MDOT family.
Gotcha.
Well,
Thanks.
members,
We didn't mean to leave you out. You're part of the family. Did I miss anyone else from the public? Okay, back to you, Tracy.
Okay, I think we need to go back to one of our previous opening remarks is to mute your phone or computer unless you are speaking. We're already having people, I guess, background noise feed over, so it's not going to go very well unless everybody mutes their microphone until they speak, please. So I'd like to welcome everybody. Hope everybody had a good new year, and hopefully this 2021 will be better than 2020. So I'd like to start out with the approval of the draft minutes that were sent out. Does anybody have any questions or comments, corrections? If not, can they ask for a motion to approve? the
I
minutes?
move they be approved. Kurt Riegel.
And Jack, second. Good job.
A motion and a second. Anyone against?
Yeah.
So moved. Okay, next thing we're going to move on to is the MDTA and SHA updates. Some updates on the current projects from MDTA Chief Engineer Jim Harkness, and then MDOT SHA Administrator Tim Smith. So whichever one of you wants to take it on and start first.
Okay.
Jim?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jim. Oh, okay. Thanks, Tim.
Jim,
Okay.
hold on a second while I'm going to get the matrix up on the screen here.
Okay. As Melissa's preparing to pull that up, she's going to display the list of 14 or so current projects that MDTA has in either construction or in procurement or in design. And most of these projects, I think, are ones that you've seen in prior meetings. I think we might have had one drop off since the last meeting, and I don't believe we've added any new ones. So I'm going to go through them and provide you maybe just a little slight description and some of the updates on things that have happened since your last meeting. So our first project is the BB 2805. That's the cleaning and painting project for westbound bridge. That project's been out for a while, and in fact, it's now considered substantially complete since the last meeting, and we are actually preparing that for final closeout. So that'll be the last that you see for this particular project. Our next project is BB 2757. That's the 5 kV electrical improvements. So this project is installing or replacing the 5 kilovolt electric feeder system on the eastbound bridge. It also has additional work on both bridges to install some SCADA equipment, and that equipment will actually allow for remote monitoring, remote switching of the electrical system on both bridges. It creates a loop because the bridge is fed from both shores by two different utility companies. So if we should lose the feed from one shore, we'll be able to backfeed essentially to ensure that both bridges electrical systems stay functional if we should have an issue. This project is currently installing the necessary cable brackets as well as the messenger system to be able to pull that cable on the eastbound bridge. There's some work on the shore ongoing where they're doing directional boring, and they've also installed some hand boxes on the eastern shore. Okay. Moving on, we have BB 2754. That's the westbound suspension span rehab. So this project, similar to the paint project, has been out for a while, and then it's actually completed and also heading towards closeout. The next project on the list is BB 2819, which you're familiar with. It's the westbound bridge deck rehab and miscellaneous modifications. So right now the project is still working, but some of the more impactful work has shut down for winter. Currently, they're still working on some rails. So they're rail post replacements. They've had 134 of those complete. That's about 65% of the rails. They have 17 of the 22 expansion joints complete, and that's about 77%. So as I said, some of that work has stopped over the winter. We'll be looking to restart the joint work as soon as we can. We'll have some demo that we can do, even if there may be a threat of winter weather. So we'll be pushing, again, the contractor to pay attention to the forecast, and we'll be seeing if we can get a good spot and get out there and hit it early so that we're we're out of the way with that joint work. We also will continue with the rail replacement, and then the signal gantries, the lane use signal gantries, that replacement will begin this month. Our next project is BB 3002, which is the Bay Bridge priority repairs. So this project essentially performs structural steel repairs, concrete repairs, and other miscellaneous repairs that we deem kind of high priority and that have been made known to us through our inspection program. This project is we extended this project to continue the repairs to enable us to address new issues that have come up from our most recent completed inspections. BB 3007 is our next project. That's the rehab and installation of maintenance access features. So this project essentially is to repair and modify the features that allow our inspection teams, our maintenance teams, our contractors to access and work on the bridge without necessarily impacting traffic. So that project started in September. So they're still wrapping up the field verifications of the access items. They're continuing with their shop drawing submittals, and they've actually completed the bolt work that we had in that project. Moving on, we'll have BB 3005. That's the miscellaneous rehab of the suspension spans. So this is structural steel repairs in the suspension spans on both bridges. So the rocker links and the lower tower struts on eastbound are finished. On westbound, they've done the bearings. We've performed some navigational lighting upgrades under this project. Those are complete, and the remaining work is those structural windshoes on eastbound bridge, and that work will be beginning this month. Our next project is BB 3008. That's the crossover automated lane closure system, the Gates project. So they've been working on directional boring and conduit installation along the shoulders of westbound 50. They've installed hand boxes and manholes, and then they've been most recently working on gantry foundations. So they have completed 7 gantry foundations on the north side, which is the westbound roadway, and then they're working on 3 foundations on the eastbound side. So they'll continue with that foundation work. They'll start the foundations that are required for the gates themselves, and there are new gantries associated with this project, so that gantry fabrication work will also get underway here. Our next project is a one that's not on the bridge. It's for the campus. It's BB 3009. It's the police building generator replacement. That project started last spring, and the generator is actually installed and was commissioned just before Christmas last month. So the only work remaining on that is just to have a little addition to the maintenance platform for that generator. Otherwise, we'll be closing that project out. Okay, and our next project is BB 3014. It's the emergency AET conversion that also includes the automated lane closure system. This is one that you are very familiar with. We wanted to thank you for the letter of support that you sent in to the governor, stating that you would like to see this project and moved forward as an emergency. So we we have actually gone ahead and issued this as an emergency contract. So we actually have pre-construction meetings set for next week. And the NTP for this project is next week. So the contractor has already been providing some early submittals, and we've actually had some of the IT equipment that's necessary for the gate system submitted for approvals. So we are already underway and heading forward.
So Jim, this is Tracy. So the letter
Yes.
did help, and it's been approved and moving forward quicker than it would have been. Correct?
Yes. So Tracy, the letter will help, and this has not. So under the emergency procurement laws, our executive director can approve the use of the emergency procurement. However, we do need to go to BPW with this. So we are currently waiting notification from BPW about when we would be put onto their agenda, and so we may be reaching out again and seeing if we could again issue some more support for that when it actually is going to be on the BPW agenda.
Okay, we were understanding. I thought that our letter was going to the BPW, so that's what we verified that.
It will, yes.
Okay, just let us know if you need anything else.
Absolutely.
Thank you. People.
Thank you. Okay. So let's see, I think that wraps up the projects that we have in construction. And we have two projects that are currently in procurement. So the first one is BB 2726. That's the rehabilitation of eastbound bridge, and it's the phase 1 of that project. So this is a CMAR project, construction manager at risk project. So this this solicitation is for pre-construction services, so not for the construction services itself. So the evaluation committee has completed their activities in terms of rating the technical proposals, and we expect that we will be opening the price proposals this month, and then we'll continuing with the procurement activities, and we hope to award in April of this year, and then that would have a designer and contractor on board that we can get underway with the design for that project.
On that, Jim, it
Yes.
says phase 1 deck widening and replacement is the widening. Can you explain that to the group just to take
Sure.
these questions?
Sure. This
I don't want somebody to think that there's going to be an extra lane or something by reading this.
Certainly, yeah, certainly. It's a nominal widening, and the intent is to just, while we're in there doing this major deck rehabilitation, we're taking the opportunity to provide some additional width in areas on the eastbound bridge where we can do that. So obviously within the suspension span and the through truss, we're limited on what we can do structurally. But outside of that, we can take advantage and get a little bit of extra width. And what that width will do will assist with capacity slightly. We expect that we can get a little bit more throughput if people have a little extra space. They're not right up against the face of the wall. It'll help with some of the curve and the safety on the curve in terms of stopping. And then the width, we think that there will be a benefit during construction as well. And then lastly, during incident response, if vehicles are completely stopped, we may be able to get the emergency vehicles to bypass the 2 lanes of stopped vehicles. We'd also be able to turn people around a little bit easier. So there are numerous benefits to the widening. But it is, as you mentioned, it's not another lane by any means.
Yes, I just want to verify, because some people might think that's going to be like the Severn River Bridge or something, but
yeah, no, we don't have, we have no viable options like that.
okay, thank you.
Jim, Jack here. How do you
Yes.
accomplish that? Hate to ask a dumb question, but
So by accounting for it, because we're replacing the deck and we're looking at the deck floor beams, all that will enter into the design. But essentially, we're going to look at the design of this new deck system, taking into account that width. The thing is, as we approach those sections where we're constrained, we're going to have to taper that back in. But we felt like the benefit of that additional width in terms of safety and possible slight additional capacities, we felt like it was the right thing to do while we were there.
okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right. So then the next project that we have in procurement right now is BB 3013. This is an on-call project, which is just a cyclical project that contract that we issue every couple of years, and it essentially allows us to respond to emergencies. It also would allow us to, again, be able to address issues that come up through our inspection program. And so finally, our last two projects are both in design. So we have BB 3004. That's the project to construct a project management office and maintenance equipment storage buildings. So this project, again, obviously, it's a facilities project. It's not on the bridge. It's actually on the Western Shore campus, not the administration building campus, but down off of Ferry Slip Road, near the docks that are there, near the Northrop Grumman entrance. We have an old Northrop Grumman building, actually, that is currently on the site, and we'll be adding a maintenance equipment storage building. And the goal is to get some of the trailers that we're using for these construction projects and get the inspection personnel, the management personnel out of those trailers, stop paying for the trailers, and just put them into a permanent building. And finally, BB 3012, it's a queue detection system for eastbound 50 on the Western Shore, and we're working with both SHA and University of Maryland on this project. We'll be installing some additional traffic monitoring devices, and then we'll be utilizing some software that needs to be developed to sort of analyze and hopefully sort of predict queuing on the eastbound 50 as you approach the bridge.
Jim Moran here. I got a couple questions.
Sure.
First one, thank you very much for that thorough report. This spreadsheet you have here, can you add another column that would just give us a % complete of each one of these projects, just so we'd have a better understanding from meeting to meeting how they're moving along in percentage of completion? That's the first thing. The second is with BB 3002, or any of them for that matter, will any of those require daytime lane closures of either bridge?
Let's see. So I think we've been doing some daytime lane closures for a number of these projects. Let
me rephrase that. During the peak season. Understand that.
Okay.
Peak season, anything there that would have it close one of the lanes on either bridge?
I think we might have some that the 5 kV when it's having to pull some wire, the cable, right. May run into it in some of some of these like the on calls. We sometimes get them out there during the day, but generally, our preference is to not do that. And certainly, I think we took advantage of it a little bit this year because of the reduction in volumes. Mm-hmm. So the volumes that we're currently seeing are only slightly more than what we, in terms of year over year than what we saw over the summer. So, obviously we're keeping a track on how the volumes are performing. And so that would be something we take into consideration. We like to, use that time to get as much work out of the way,
Right.
as soon as possible, while, also being mindful not to inconvenience customers too much.
My last question is on BB 3008. Can you tell us what the percent complete on that project is? And is all the directional boring complete on that project?
Okay, let me just go back. Sorry, bear with me. The directional boring and conduit installation is complete.
Excellent. And how about the project itself? How's that?
I think, in terms of the time that we had for that contract, we're about 35% through.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Again, similar to what we discussed, what Will Pines discussed last time for the 3014 contract. One of the pieces of this is the integration, the IT piece of this, and that's still underway. And so that kind of happens after the physical construction is done.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Jim, it's Kurt Riegel here. I have a question.
Yes.
With respect to the 5 kilovolt feeder project, I'm just curious, what are the major power demands on the bridge? I assume it's not lights, it must be something else.
Well, it does. So that we do feed our lane use signal gantries. We have flashing beacons for congestion warning. We have our aircraft warning lights beacons. We have the navigational channel beacons. We also have the dehumidification system on the bridges for the suspension cables.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Jim? It's a pretty thorough report.
Tracy, if I may, I have one more
Sure.
item as well.
Sure.
We just also wanted to take a second to recognize our police. We wanted to share that Senator Riley had received an email from a constituent that was commending the MDTA police in their handling of the 2 events this past summer and early fall. So in November, Senator Ed Riley presented the MDTA a Senate resolution, and our police received that resolution congratulating their work and efforts at the Bay Bridge. And so if I may, just quickly, I'll read that resolution for everyone. So the Senate of Maryland resolution, be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Maryland Transportation Authority Police in recognition of your exemplary compassion, courage, and professionalism in the handling of the William Preston Lane Jr. Memorial Bay Bridge. Your patience and persistence and disregard for your own safety are all hallmarks of your commitment to serve the people of Maryland. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion. Signed, William C. Ferguson, President of the Senate, and Edward R. Riley, Senator.
Very good.
I do have a quick.
Much appreciated, I'm sure, by them. So they do a lot out there for the public.
Yes, definitely
If I
appreciate
can make it quick. A lot of folks were inconvenienced because of the shutdown of the lanes, but human life is precious. And, it took some extra time on that one case, but it was well worth it. I think the outcome proved to be favorable. The guy didn't jump, but this is a tough job. You never, when they go out on the road, they never know what they're going to face. And at the end of the day, we do appreciate all they do. Thank you very much for recognizing that citation.
That's great.
Thank you, Senator.
Riley, thank you for recognizing the police. That's much appreciated by all of us, and especially by the MDTA police. Okay.
And
No further-
Tracy, this
Yeah.
is
Will Pines. I just want to pipe in on one other thing on the projects report, going back to Member Moran's question on the daytime peak hour closures. A point to make sure that, for the record, the redecking project is still in many ways in its infancy. We're still in the engineering phase, and so I don't want the record to reflect that we are confident that there will be no peak hour daytime closures for that. The duration of the contract may, and the cost of the work, frankly, may factor into how the work is accomplished. And so I think we just don't know the answer to that question yet. But because the complete list was there, I wanted to make sure it was clear that we point out that there may eventually be a consideration for daytime closures for that project.
Well noted. Thank you for that update. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Harkness? Now we'll move on to Administrator Tim Smith. Give you the floor.
Yep, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. So in case you haven't noticed, Jim Harkness and I have the same barber, close and tight. What Jim did a great job of kind of summarizing everything MDTA is working on related to the bridge. What we do is kind of coordinate and collaborate with MDTA with any of our projects. We don't currently have any projects adjacent to the bridge, but what we do coordinate with them as well is just traffic and incident management on both sides of the bridge and along the whole eastern shore, especially when you start looking at the major thoroughfares on US 50, Maryland 404, Maryland 90, US 301. So just to give you, I'm a kind of a stat guy at heart. So just to give you some numbers, in 2020, between the two agencies, we assisted over 620 disabled motorists throughout that whole entire corridor and responded to almost 1,800 incidents and events. So what we think we do well is once there's an issue, we're proactively patrolling the whole eastern shore, both and the western shore as well, and trying to remove those issues as quickly as possible, as safely as possible, to get traffic moving again. So that's just my quick update because, like I said, Jim handled the project side of these. I'm just handling the traffic operations side of it. So that's my update.
Tim, I'd like to add to that. They have been a great help. The emergency response trucks out there, moving vehicles out of the road, getting the roadways cleared quicker than waiting 15, 20 minutes or half an hour longer for a tow truck to come move a vehicle. They have been a great asset, and they've helped with the safety of the fire and EMS and police out on the roads with their traffic signs and stuff. They've been a great asset and good to work with. So we appreciate you having them, moving them over to the eastern shore and having them more available for us.
Yeah, just for the record, I guess it was probably maybe 14, 16 months ago, we dedicated additional resources just to that corridor.
It's much appreciated. Thank you. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Tim? If not, we'll move on to some unfinished business. Our next agenda item would be concerns of state ethics financial disclosure for BRAG members.
Actually, Tracy, we have the Bay Crossing study update now.
Okay. I was on the wrong sheet there. Okay. Let's go do Heather Lowe from the Bay Crossing study update. Heather.
Thanks so much, Tracy, and Happy New Year, everybody. I have a quick update for you regarding the Bay Crossing study. So we are working with our federal, state, and local partners to develop a plan that will allow equal access to Bay Crossing study hearings and associated materials, including that draft environmental impact statement. Our plan has to allow access while protecting the safety of the public during the current health crisis. So I anticipate providing more information on the Bay Crossing study schedule in the near future, so please stay tuned. And that's all I have today.
Okay, sure.
Tracy, Jim Moran, one more time. Heather, so we are, just to make sure I understand you correctly, we are in the segment where now it goes to the public for all the open house meetings discussion?
We are developing a plan for that. That's correct. So the next steps would be to complete and publish the draft environmental impact statement, get that notice of availability out to the public, and provide opportunity for the public to review that document, and then follow up with public testimony and hearings. We're working on that plan currently.
Okay, so are you talking about something that could take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months for that plan and implementation?
Hey, Heather, let me pipe in here real quickly.
Thanks.
This is important. Director. So obviously, this is a federal, process, and we have to follow the federal law and regulation.
Yeah.
Heather is working very closely with the feds, and we actually had approval at one point to move forward with virtual meetings due to COVID. Then I guess somebody higher up in the federal government decided that that was not going to meet the federal regulations for public access and for public hearings, that we had to have public hearings where people could actually show up.
Mhm.
And so that really set us back. And it set us back because of the COVID restrictions. So where we thought we were going to move forward, matter of fact, Heather had a schedule that we had to start the hearing process the first week of January, this week actually. And but we had to pull that back because of the federal regulations and their determination that we had to have in-person hearings. So we cannot give you an answer on exactly when that'll occur. It really is between the feds and the COVID restrictions. That's where we are.
So what you're saying is, until we can have public meetings, and we can't have those open houses.
That's what the feds said. Correct. Okay. It's a federal, as I mentioned, it's a federal process. We have to follow their laws and their regulations, and they have Title VI regulations that they need us to follow, and we cannot move forward without their approval. And I don't know what else to say to you about that. It's their process. We have to follow it.
Right, and their process is telling you have to have open meetings with bodies in the room. So I get it. Okay.
To me, we can have 2 meetings. I think the last meeting that Heather had, she's been working very hard on this, by the way. I have to give her a lot of credit because she's been really pushing hard. But I believe that they want us to have 2 in-person meetings and 2 virtual meetings.
Okay.
And whether if there's any updates, I know Heather was in a meeting with them today, so if she has any updates, she can place in and give that information too.
Nice.
Right, Jim, that's true. We were planning on 2 in person, and this was before the COVID numbers really started to skyrocket. And we were going to have 2 virtual call-in testimony sessions, but because of the pandemic, we've had to pull back on those in-person hearings, and those are required in order to release that draft environmental impact statement. So we're watching hard the numbers with the pandemic and trying to come up with a plan to allow that access to all during this time.
There also, it's my understanding too, Jim, that one of the things that we have to do is provide all the information in a public setting. So normally we do that in libraries. And of course, we had a plan to put the information out in the libraries. And I know that Anne Arundel counties for sure shut down their libraries. So again, has that process that we have to follow. And if these babies are shut down because of COVID, then obviously we can't utilize those. And Heather, again, piped in on that one.
No, Jim, you're absolutely right. Thank you. Part of providing the associated materials for those hearings is to provide access to that draft environmental impact statement. And we do rely on libraries in order to allow the public to, those of the public that need to view a hard copy of the document, they would need to go somewhere to see it. So these are truly unprecedented times, and we are working with Federal Highway to be able to move forward.
Okay. Jim, did that answer your questions?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Heather?
Heather, this is Ramon. So just kind of going back to the I guess the question in regards to making sure that people have a way to be able to, I guess, review the draft documents. Even, I mean, is there another way or a way that the feds are kind of prescribing to you all to use? I know that there's still plans that are kind of taking shape right now. And so, everybody's kind of going into some alternative methods. And even still, if there are a couple or a few that need hard copies, is there a way to mail them to them, or, come up with not bound, but, something that would be low cost? Has that been looked at?
Right. Well, Ramon, thank you for bringing that up. We certainly are looking outside the box with this, and that's part of what my discussion with Federal Highway this afternoon was. So we are not just relying on libraries. We're trying to come up with another plan in order to keep us moving forward. But then again, we also do have to have the in-person hearing as well. So stay tuned. I really do anticipate to have more information in the near future that hopefully will allow us to keep moving forward, just doing things outside the box and being flexible with the process.
Okay, any further questions for Heather? Thank you, Heather. Next item of business is
Thank you.
Unfinished business is the Maryland State Ethics Financial Disclosure Exemption Submission. The BRAG was submitted paperwork to the Ethics Commission and has formally determined that the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group is exempt from financial disclosure requirements. This does not exempt BRAG members from complying with requirements regarding conflicts of interest. So, our next item is the expedition of Board of Public Works letter of support, and we already had Jim touched on that. Does anybody else have any questions on that before we move on? I think Jim covered that. Jack, you had questioned it, had some concerns about it. Are you okay with that, what Jim explained?
Yeah, I guess, as long as we're helping the process, I think that's really the key. Jim encouraged BRAG support in a statement. We're glad we were able to do that. And I guess, Jim, as I understand it, you can go ahead in the meantime and initiate the process, but at some point, it's still going to require BPW blessing. Is that right?
That's right. So the procurement regulations say that we can go ahead with an emergency procurement, but then there are steps that we need to follow afterwards, including listing it on our eMaryland Marketplace Advantage, and then the step of going to have it on the BPW as notification to them that we did this emergency procurement.
Well, that's
Let me clarify, Jack. So we have delegated authority to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
It was as to whether we had to go to the Board of Public Works prior or after. So since we do have the delegated authority, I had the ability to approve the project. And then we have to then report that to the BPW. So the letter still will come in handy. But at the time, we were still trying to determine what process we had to follow with the BPW. And so that's how it's.
Yeah, good. I think, sometimes BRAG members bring problems and concerns to you guys, and that's part of our role. But I think when there's an opportunity to support an effort like that, it's something that the BRAG members are, very willing to do. And we were glad to be able to provide that level of support and help it move forward.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on the letter? Any questions? Next thing we have is the BRAG reporting schedule. We have Bradley Ryan. Bradley.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here to provide you tonight with an overview of your reporting requirements. The current construction of BRAG was set up by House Bill 56, a bill that was introduced by Delegate Arentz last year and became law later in the year. In addition to the makeup of the group and other provisions, the law sets up a few reporting requirements for you. The group is required to report to the authority on a quarterly basis and to the governor and General Assembly annually. Your first report to the governor and the General Assembly is due on or before July 1st, 2021. The reports need to generally summarize the BRAG's activities, meetings and topics discussed, education to the general public about the Bay Bridge, how you have assisted the MDTA to provide input on traffic and customer service issues, any traffic capacity studies you may have reviewed, etc., and any group recommendations. Again, your first report is due to the Governor and General Assembly by July 1st of this year, but we wanted to present it now to give you an ample heads up. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Melissa, I guess, what's the best way that we're going to have to get this report together? Is to collect some of the meeting minutes and put them into a letter or to the governor's office, or how's the best way to work that?
I'm not sure. I mean, the legislation, Brad, is very loose on what the BRAG wants its report to look like. So I think it should be up to the group to decide, how it wants to be represented that way.
But I think you're right that your minutes provide the perfect starting point to get it going. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that sort of covers what we've been discussing. Some of the questions that have been asked, and the reports and stuff are pretty much, to me, documents everything we've been doing at our quarterly meetings. I'm just wondering if that's enough, or we have to come up with more stuff to add to it, or what's your feeling on that?
If anyone else wants to jump in, but it leaves it pretty wide open. So, again, I think that the minutes, as you mentioned, accurately reflect what you've been doing in each of your meetings, what you've been discussing, issues you've brought up, which perfectly encapsulates a report on how the last year has gone.
You agree, Melissa, that would probably be the best way to move forward with that?
Sure. If that's how this organization wants to represent their accomplishments throughout the year, yes. If there's other things you think it's important to highlight or bring attention, I mean, this is your chance to report.
I see Sean has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Brad, just a quick question. It seems to me as if you were suggesting that possibly the report could consist of all four of the quarterly minutes, and maybe we would do like an overview letter just describing what is in there, and then maybe some sort of a closing letter or just a letter describing that we have the minutes with any other information we want to share. So are you thinking that maybe the grouping of minutes would be sufficient with some sort of a cover letter?
I think so. It leaves it that my recollection is it says that the group must report its activities. And that's all it says.
Okay. Thanks.
Sean or Tracy, if I might,
Go ahead, Jim.
what would be good, I believe, is to put the minutes in. And I think an extra that we could do is also, we post the minutes, and we also post a lot of the information that is available as far as things. So whatever we like that can lead people to the web where that information might be, probably be able to keep a letter. With that, if anybody wants to do any research on it, they'll be able to do so very easily.
Okay, you're really broken up on to the last couple seconds of your report. Your microphone was really scratchy. Can you repeat that again? Sorry about that.
Hear me now, okay?
It's still scratchy. It's broken up.
Not sure why. Must be a little interference in the internet or something. But what I was saying, Tracy, is along with the minutes, if we could probably just post some of the links, because as you know, we post the information on the web. And so if anybody would want to research any of the information that we shared, we could put the links on there and they could easily get the information that they're looking for.
Yep, I'm good with that. Can we have any more members of the BRAG want to give their opinion on the report, which should be submitted to the governor?
Hey, Tracy, this is Sean. I just have one more question for Brad, and I'm sorry that I didn't ask this. Brad, I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but when is the first report due?
On or before July the 1st of this year.
Okay, so we'll have had, what, 2 meetings by then? That's perfect. Is that right? Yeah, we'll have 2 meetings by then, and we'll have had like the organizational meeting that we had in October. I think there was a report that was actually due like soon after the or before the official start of the commission. So we would have, it sounds to me like we would have 3 sets of minutes to be able to include.
That would be right. We should include all 3 probably.
Perfect.
Any other members of the BRAG have any comments on what to include in the minutes? Or not in the minutes, but in the report to the governors?
That sounds like a good start, Tracy.
Okay, I'll work with Melissa on that and we'll try to get something together and run it by the BRAG and then get it submitted. Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Next item of business is an incident management discussion. Commissioner Moran had questions on that.
Well, I don't know if it's, well, I guess it is a question, but I know we briefly touched on this at our last meeting, and I asked this to be put in there to get the perspective from MDTA side and the state side, basically on you know, these backups on either bridge that, sorry about that, that are not construction related. So, you know, I guess that's you know, what can we do as Queen Anne's County and Anne Arundel County to help facilitate the less frequency of these type of incidents? And I know they're not a lot of them, but when they are, you know, the one that we're all discussing, you know, that happened twice inside of, I think it was a month or 5 weeks, whatever the case may be. You know, Queen Anne's County, I think Delegate Orange is working on some legislation with stiffer penalties. I mean, you know, tell us how we can help you keep these bridges flowing and at least, you know, remove that one element from something where we really don't have it's a basically we're going to wait it out situation versus, you know, at least if that individual is taken into custody, we know that he's not going to be back out on the street in 2 days. So, you know, I'm opening that up to MDTA, you know, any comments, anything that we can do there as counties to help with that situation.
I guess, Jim, you're looking to see if they're going to submit like any type of legislation for?
Well, I know Delegate Arntz and Senator Hershey have been milling this around, trying to find a way to do this because I believe it's just a trespassing. It's all it is when you get on the bridge. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know what laws are tied to the bridge. That was one of the questions I wanted to find out from MDTA. Is there any laws that are on the books now for this specific type of issue? If there is, how do we get them on there?
So let me take a stab at that, Jim.
Thank you.
So it's a very challenging problem that we have because, as you know, anybody can drive on the bridge. You have free access to drive on the bridge. And we never know when someone is going to stop their vehicle and get out and abandon that vehicle, quite frankly. As you know, that we have a lot of cameras on the bridge. And as soon as we see an abandoned vehicle, the police are on their way. But obviously that takes a few minutes, right? Because there's no way that we can anticipate somebody's going to abandon their vehicle in the middle of the bridge. And so that becomes a difficult problem to solve. I don't know that we have a solution for that. Because again, everybody has free access to the bridge. So after, and then of course there's a lot of procedures that the police follow, both Anne Arundel County, Queen Anne's County, and MDTA, police, and fire, as far as strategies on how to talk someone down, as you mentioned earlier, as was mentioned earlier today. Senator Riley gave us a resolution, gave our police a resolution on the good job that they did. It's a very tenuous situation. One of the things we have to do is protect our officers. So one of the things that had been occurring is they would shut down the entire bridge, all 3 lanes. What I asked our police force to do in the last incident was to see if we could block off the lane they were in +1 for their safety, as well as the safety of the individual. These are mental health issues. When we apprehend a person, it is not a criminal offense, technically. It is a mental health issue, as I mentioned. And the judge decides whether they're going to get mental health treatment. So it's not anything to do with us or any decisions that we have to make as it relates to the current law. So obviously we don't do policy, we're the executive branch. The legislative branch does policy. And so I had suggested to your representative, Bruce Bariano, that they do some research on this issue. We gave him full access to our police force, and our police officer, Lucy Lyles, walked him through the entire process as it relates to our role in these incidents. But again, once we turn that individual over, it's up to a court. It's out of our hands, just like any other incident that, like as we call him, the donut guy, we try to apprehend them, but it's up to a court to prosecute and go through the judicial process. So I would just say that if I were to give any advice, I would say that you have to work probably with the Department of Health in the mental health area, and also some of the local police forces to see what other kind of actions might be able to be taken, and then create the policy / legislation to try and accomplish the goals.
I think that's what they're trying to get to, is try to have some other legislation that would try to prevent someone from, first offense would be strong enough that they say, I'm not coming back and have to deal with that again.
I mean,
Mr. Moran, you have anything else that you want to cover on that?
I would say that a legislator could create a system where they could have mandatory jail time. I'm not suggesting that, since it is a mental health issue. You have to be cognizant of that. But obviously, again, it's a legislature that does the policy, so they can create any policy they want. moving forward. So, and then of course it's up to us to enforce it after that point.
Okay. Commissioner Moran, do you have any further comments on that?
No, I think that's the direction we were headed. I just wanted to see if there was anything from the MDTA side that could be possibly helpful, and we'll pursue it in that direction.
Okay, I think they're willing to help. Just
sure, no, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else? Barbara, do you have a question? Okay, we thought Barbara had a question or comment. Does anybody else from the BRAG have any comments on that issue? Next comment we have is tolling options for discussion. We talked about this once before, but Commissioner Moran had another question about the tolling on the westbound bridge. So, Jim, you want to go with that?
Well, yeah, again, this was briefly touched on at the last meeting, and I just wanted to make it a part of the agenda. As we all know, that we are in the NEPA, we are moving forward with it, but sooner or later we're going to get to phase 2, and phase 2 is going to be approximately, I don't know, I'm assuming somewhere, I'm hearing the numbers around $35 million for the phase 2 portion of the NEPA to just keep the process moving. There is nothing in the 6-year CTP to fund this. And, as we know, with COVID going on right now and budgets destroyed and plans that are just going to be totally disrupted, we need to do something. And again, I'm looking to Anne Arundel County to team up with us on this to make sure that this process moves forward because, we are at a capacity issue. It is, nothing else that can be done with this bridge is going to alleviate these traffic problems because it's just a sheer capacity. And I think we all can agree upon that. So what I approached, and I've had discussions with some state officials, not many, but some, about westbound dynamic tolling on Sundays. Charging, for instance, $10 for anybody that travels westbound over that bridge during peak summer days from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think some of the numbers we showed from our counters that we have set up, that this would generate about $1.5 million a month. And over a 3 and 4 year span, it would more than fund the second tier 2 of the NEPA, phase 2 of the NEPA, and without any impact to ongoing projects on MDTA schedule and or the state budget. So, I know the MDTA funds everything that they do, but again, this is, and I understand that our governor doesn't want to do anything with tolls, but it sounds like now we're going to be into late 2021, possibly 22, before we're out of the phase 1, and there'll be a different governor in the office. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to have to pause this, waiting for the next administration to come in, hoping that they will do this. Or is there another solution to fund phase 2 of this study so that we can keep moving forward, because time is our enemy, because it just increases with more vehicles. So I'm looking for guidance, on how we go about this. If it is a toll issue, if it is something where, that might not happen today, might not happen next year, but it could happen in 2 years. Well, then what is the process to get us moving forward in that direction? Or if somebody says, look, I think that MDTA could handle that $35 million, as we just saw the amount of projects that you've got going on that are in the hundreds of millions of dollars. What is our best route here that you think we'd get the most support for? And again, I'm asking MDTA this, and Anne Arundel County this, and anybody else. What kind of ideas do we have, or options do we have to keep us on track with this this long drawn out process for a bridge that has capacity, be it here or anywhere else? So that's what my question is to the group.
Yeah, I'd like to, this is Kurt Riegel, I'd like to say a few words on this point. This is a very important point. I tried to get together with you, Jim Moran, about this thing, but it didn't happen. I hope it will in the future. Here's what I'd like to suggest. I know that this business of demand management has been discussed at least at some level in the past, and I'd like to recommend that we come back to this, constituting a group of those of us who are interested in, plus such experts who may already be employed by the state of Maryland, to look at this business of demand management. Yes, there's a capacity problem, but more than that, there's a peak capacity problem, peak which can be modulated by economic means. Peak pricing is something that has been used successfully elsewhere, and I think for the biggest peaks, it's an excellent suggestion. There may be economists who've looked into this in some degree, some detail, so that there's really firm information on how effective it is and where the tolls need to be set in order to accomplish the result that you want to achieve. So I would echo Jim Moran's suggestion that this is an important item that needs to be looked at. I'd like to join with him and such others, especially experts in this subject that may already be employed by the state, to see if we can make some progress on detailed recommendations.
Jim, I saw you wanted to talk. Jim Ports.
Yes, yes. So I wanted to be clear. I know we had mentioned this before, Jim Moran. There's too many Jims here on the call tonight. But and correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but you won't see any extra funding in the CTP until we get a record of decision, and we have what we consider the route that we're going to take, right? So that happens after the public hearing process and after all these other processes, and then we wait for the record of decision from the federal government, and then you look to putting funding in the CTP. So I just want to be clear about that part of the process. I know you keep bringing that up, Jim, and I just want to make sure that we're clear about when that would occur. That's one. Now, as far as the demand management does work in some cases. It usually works probably better when there's different options to go, like around the harbor, Baltimore Harbor. If you did one facility, you have other options. You also have the city that you can go through at any given time to give people some relief. But quite frankly, it's not just a Sunday problem that we have. We also have a now Thursday and Friday problem eastbound as far as capacity, and of course a Sunday problem westbound. So you may need demand management. If you go the demand management route, you may need demand management for many more days than just one. I'm just throwing that out there as an option. And you're right. The amount of money that you would need to I guess curtail some of that traffic may be a little higher than what people want to do, and it will probably impact some of your commuters also at the same time, or some of your folks in your area. And Jim, just for the record, I do want to say that there is, I know you said there's nothing that can be done other than it's a capacity problem, and it is. You're absolutely correct. But the nothing can be done part, I might suggest that, even some moratoriums on some building. I know there's a lot of expansion on both sides, especially in the Queen Anne side, as far as building houses and condos and other businesses. So there is a partial way that you could contribute by putting more of a moratorium in the building, and that would certainly help somewhat as a short-term measure. So there are probably other solutions we can look at, and we'd be more than happy to work with you. As you know, Governor Hogan at this point may not look at the demand management. We'd have to work with him to see how he feels about that, but that may be a little bit of a challenge.
Plus, also on the westbound bridge, we don't have the electronic tolling set up, that'd be another year or more probably getting that done, correct? And getting into a process.
Yeah, that would be, so that obviously be a procurement. It has to be, you know, we'd have to find a contractor. We'd have to have competition, et cetera, et cetera. It'd probably take 18 months or so just for the procurement, would be my guess.
Okay. I understand some of the, Queen might be able to do a little bit to help some of the population on the bridge, but I think Ocean City has well overrun us with the amount of building they're doing down there, and they want to see people come down. And it's hard for us to put a stop to it.
Tracy, to that point, you know, I appreciate Jim's comments, but we don't have any traffic issues whatsoever right now, last month, or next month. That's Queen Anne's County's traffic, Anne Arundel County's traffic. So, you know, to call this a growth issue, I mean, that is a huge stretch. And to tell, you know, that's like me saying, well, let's stop everybody from Pennsylvania and Virginia from crossing that bridge because they're causing the backup. I mean, that just doesn't cut it. And we know that it takes 18 months to 2 years to get electronic tolling up. That's the whole purpose of starting now to build up, because we know it's going to take 2 years, possibly 3 years. And I totally get that. But, you know, unless we're going to get some sort of commitment from MDTA to say, look, at when we get to phase 2, we will fund phase 2. But to get there and say we don't have money, you know, I'm not saying anybody's delaying this project. I would like to say see the project move forward. It's already, you know, phase 1 is no more a 4-year project, 4-year term. It's going to probably push out to 5, almost 6. So, you know, again, I'm trying to move this forward for my grandchildren. You know, I'm not going to see the bridge, but you know, we have to do what's right for our citizens and moving this process forward. Right thing.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't. I certainly didn't say that the growth was the only problem. I don't want to misrepresent what I said. You've heard me say this several times before, but I didn't want to get into a whole long explanation. But clearly, the Reach the Beach efforts for several decades, back to Governor Schaefer, if you will, is a big part of this problem, as you know, especially in the summertime. There's no question that tourism is a big part of Maryland's economy, and Ocean City is a huge part of the tourism. And so, Jim, I think you're old enough. I know I'm old enough to remember the drawbridges that were along that route that used to hold traffic up while the boats would go under. Okay, I thought you might be old enough. I wasn't sure. I was giving you some credit. But you know, that whole effort by Governor Schaefer to restructure all those bridges so that we didn't have drawbridges, as well as expanding the highways and the bridgeways along that route, and the entire marketing Reach the Beach effort, as I mentioned, for decades and decades, and it pretty much hit every administration since Schaefer, has contributed to that capacity problem on that bridge. No question about it. There's a lot of things that do contribute to that, and that is certainly a huge one.
Anybody else have any comments on the?
Just briefly, Tracy, this will.
Sure.
A couple of other points to make here. On the idea of conducting a study on the tolling options, it sounds like there's a little bit of competing ideas. One is an idea to do this simply because it will be a source of revenue to fund future NEPA study work, which I can't debate that, and obviously we've talked about that a little bit. And then the second idea is to manage congestion through congestion pricing. In order to do the latter, we would really need to do a high quality traffic and revenue study and analyze this in a lot of detail. And then on top of that, there's the engineering costs and the construction costs for any infrastructure that would be built, and none of which do we have funding in the CTP now for either. So I just want to make it clear, you know, from MDTA side, I don't want to be a naysayer to the idea of investigating it, but we also don't have funds at this point to do that kind of investigation. And I think when we're talking about it, it sounds like there's a perception that this is a minor effort, and I don't think that's the case. The level of analysis that will be needed to do a high quality investigation that would be able to survive toll hearings and the other things that we would need to do in order to implement an idea like this would be quite expensive in its own right, and just want to make sure that that's understood from the group. Thank you.
Well, this is Ramon Robinson from Anne Arundel County. So one and to that point, one question I would have is, are there some examples that you guys will be able to furnish to the BBRAG in regards to that type of undertaking, like something from somewhere else, maybe somewhere else where it's kind of the similar layout here, but just kind of giving some details as to what the levels would look like for this type of study, so that people can kind of have an idea as you're explaining it, what that detail would look like.
Well, it partly goes back, Ramon, to the question about, is the purpose of it just simply to generate revenue, or is it actually the purpose to do congestion pricing? If it's the latter, sure, we could probably work to develop some kind of cost estimate to do the investigation. But we have done some really high level cursory looks at this in the past. And I'll say, speaking anecdotally, if you will, we're a little skeptical about how well it would work from a congestion management standpoint. If you're somebody who is, going back to Member Moran's comment, if you're somebody who's from Pennsylvania going down to the beach and you've paid $5,000 to go spend 4 days in Ocean City with your family, even me personally, $10 is not going to make me arrive at 2 o'clock in the morning versus showing up at 6 o'clock where I can have that extra evening meal with my family. So there is a reality about the types of weekend users that we have and the purpose for their travels. And so as Jim was kind of alluding to, the hours that this would need to be in place and what we refer to as the shoulders, how many hours beyond the peak periods it would need to be in place, could be quite long in order to actually influence traffic, along with having really a very high toll rates to actually meaningfully manage congestion. But again, that would need to be fully studied. But our cursory look at it is not very optimistic. So just some thoughts.
Well,
but sure, we
Will, to that point, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. The purpose of this is to have a funding source so we can go forward with this project. So the funding source is the first and foremost, so that it doesn't get delayed because we don't have funding, and it takes 2 years to do this. The bonus was, if it changes some people's travel habits, be it for 1 year or 2 years, it gives us a little bit of breathing room with the traffic. I mean, yeah, we don't think that this is, you're 100% correct. If somebody's paying $5,000 for a week at the beach, 10, 20 bucks, he doesn't care. He's going home when he wants to go home. But at least the public can see, here is why we are doing this, because of the capacity. If the public says, look, if I got to pay $10 on a Sunday so I know that there's a bridge coming in my future, then I'm going to do it, because right now there is no solution to the problem, period. There is none. So the only solution is the study the governor started, and we have to complete that study. We have to move forward. And then it becomes, then it's going to be somebody else's problem to fund something that's $5 to $10 billion. And I totally get that. But at least we have done our due diligence to get us there. And I think that's what this organization needs to focus on, because it went from these construction projects, and when they get done, I mean, we've had a reprise for this last year because of COVID. But that traffic's going to come back, and it's going to come back with a roar. And thank God we've gone to electronic tolling. And I hope this emergency construction on the Western Shore works, because I think somebody said it last meeting that accidents are down somewhere 30, 40, 50% down rear-ending accidents because now traffic doesn't do the old slinky, speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. So that is helping, and that's great. But again, we know what this is going to take to move forward. Just like you said, it might be an 18-month study. That's fine. Well, let's start it sooner rather than later. Or MDTA can come out and say, look, we will fund it when it gets to that point. But I don't think you can make those kind of promises. And I'm just trying to help find a way to fund something versus what happens in Annapolis all the time, where people come in with all these grandiose ideas and they just rob from Peter to Paul, and that's always a problem. So. That was the intent with this, and I appreciate the input.
Kurt Riegel again. Is really an interesting discussion, and I just want to make a couple of simple points. Yeah, it's complicated, but there is a lot of experience on this, and William Pines, I'd love to, after this is over, to get some recommendations for you and some references for studies that have been done. There may be some flesh on these bones already, and I'd like to become more familiar with it. With respect to dynamic pricing, this is something that should be dynamic. You change prices according to demand, and the prices can go down as well as up. There is this idea of off-peak pricing, which goes way down. It's true that there are a substantial portion of the people that contribute to peak loads who are price insensitive. But there's also a significant portion, 5, 10, 15%, which are price sensitive and can move off the peak to another time of day. And it doesn't take much of a move. 15% is a big move in terms of reducing congestion wait times.
And Will, if you have any of those other studies, I mean, if you've looked at this and you've got anything, white paper, anything on any of these other, if you've had a chance to even discuss it or run a report, I'd love to see it too.
Okay.
Yeah, again, I don't think we have anything that is of sufficient quality that it would withstand a true traffic and revenue test, and that we would be able to say we're ready to make recommendations on toll rates and other things based on it. But we can certainly talk with the team and see if there's some things that we could provide to the group to give some context. And I hope I didn't come across, I'm not trying to be a complete naysayer of the idea here. I understand the idea about revenue, and I get everything, the points being made. I just wanted to make it clear. Particularly, my bigger point is just that to do this right, we would need to do a detailed study, and any follow-on construction would need to be funded, and we don't have funds for either one of those activities at this point. That was my bigger point.
Understood. I appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else have any more comments on that topic? Hearing no further, does any other BRAG members have any more comments about anything like to be brought up at this time before we open it up to the public?
One last thing from me, Tracy. I just want to thank MDTA. Those control joints on the bridge, your contractor rocked that thing. I mean, to get that many done, you're down to 5 left. Hopefully we get a warm spring, and by Memorial Day, that all 5 of those joints can be done and traffic opened up. So again, thank you for that effort and the effort on the rails. 134 complete. I think the last time we met there was only. So kudos to your contractors, and I hope the weather holds out for you guys and you can keep rocking and rolling. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the members of the BRAG? Hearing none. Is there any comments from the public, Melissa?
No, I had no requests.
Okay. Barbara, did you have your hand up, or you can't have your hand up because you're not online, but did you have a question or anything earlier? Melissa thought you might have had a comment.
No, I did not.
Okay. Just want to check and make sure. Okay. Well, that should be the end of the topics for tonight. Our next meeting is scheduled to take place on Wednesday, April the 7th, 2021 at 6 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Jack.
Second,
Second,
second, Jim.
Jim Moran, second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unless anybody's against, everybody wants to go home. Most people are home, so I can't really say that nowadays. But thanks, everybody, and